Taiju is happy again today because Zuehua is going to stir-fry his favorite noodles. This huge pot full of noodles is probably enough to make 3 or 4 taises, so full they'd have to lean on the wall to walk out the door. After the kids came home from school, they sat on the floor doing their homework. Although they looked like they were doing their homework, their minds were actually filled with thoughts of eating noodles. Every time they stir-fry noodles, Taiju is always the most eager one. He picked up the colander and shook it non-stop, hoping to drain the water from the noodles as quickly as possible. After Priya scooped out the noodles stuck to the bottom of the pot, her youngest daughter immediately grabbed a handful and started eating. After pouring out the drained water, Taiju dumped the noodles into the pot. Unable to wait any longer to eat, he didn't even take the spoon Priya handed him. He just grabbed the noodles from the bottom of the colander with his hands. To make stir-fried noodles taste delicious, oil is the key. Taiju picked up the oil can and poured in a generous amount. Needless to say, this batch of noodles was bound to be fragrant, but he ended up getting scolded by Priya. She thought Taiju had poured in too much oil, which made their youngest daughter's eyes widen in shock. He used tongs to mix the noodles and oil evenly. Then it was time to prepare the side dishes. The eldest daughter handed him a head of cabbage, and Taiju fetched a cutting board from behind him. Upon closer inspection, he found it covered in dust. Taiju decided to chop it on the floor instead. The freshly picked cabbage was crisp as he cut it. Taiju quickly chopped it into small pieces. Now it was time to stir-fry the noodles. Priya placed the noodle pot over the fire. She then poured fresh oil into the old oil bucket. She picked up the bucket and poured a bit of oil into the pot. Priya had a perfect handle on the amount. This amount of oil was just right. Not too much, not too little, for stir-frying. Her youngest daughter, Hungry, was tapping a plate nearby. Priya took out some turmeric powder and sprinkled it into the pot. Then she dumped the cabbage into the pot. She even picked up the pieces that had fallen on the floor and tossed them in. Her eldest daughter brought the seasonings over to the pot. Priya picked up the tongs and began stir-frying the cabbage. Once the cabbage was just tender, Priya sprinkled a little salt into it. Then she poured the noodles from the pot into the wok. Now the pressure shifted to the wok. Priya began laboriously tossing the noodles. The children in the back started eating the leftover noodles that hadn't been completely emptied from the pot. Priya kept stirring the noodles. Taiju stood nearby, placing various seasonings, sesame oil and soy sauce. But there were simply too many noodles in the pot. She had to pour in all the soy sauce. That's probably the only way to coat all the noodles. Taiju could only try his best to stir it evenly. To speed things up, Priya picked up a spatula and stirred along with Taiju. The two of them worked very efficiently. The noodles were almost done in no time. Taiju scooped up a bit of noodles with his chopsticks, then popped them into his mouth to taste. The saltiness was just right. They were basically ready to eat. Soon, the children all brought out their utensils and waited for Priya to serve them. The eldest son, Hao, boldly asked for a bowl straight from the pot. Priya served noodles to everyone, and they all began to wolf it down. These stir-fried noodles were so delicious.